All right, how we doing? Thanks for being here. We're going to do a quick Zoom for you guys on how to intentionally share Plexus with friends.
Yes, and so today is going to be about how not just how to share plexus with friends, but also how to intentionally share plexus with friends. I don't
Come
know
on,
why
babe.
I couldn't get that out because
Come on, babe.
the reason why I wanted to say that because there is a difference. There's a difference of just like blabbing your mouth to everybody about the pink drink, and then there's a way to intentionally ask people that could use the drink. So we're in talk about the intentionality and how to talk to people in that way. And first, we're going to open up with what limiting beliefs are. Because when you go to ask people to try your pink drink or start talking to them about Plexus or the business, that's the first thing that's going to come up. Your limiting beliefs, right? What red light stories are. And red light stories basically are limiting beliefs, but what they do is they keep you from moving forward, they keep you from sharing. And I listed out a couple of limiting beliefs. And here are some of them that you might have told yourself already. Um, I don't know them well enough. I don't want to rush it. We aren't close enough. I don't want to be salesy. What will they think? If I just wait a little longer, they'll like me more. I've only known them a week. They're my family. They would never be interested in this. It's hard with family. So when you go to think of people that you want to intentionally share with, these limiting beliefs are going to come up. And it's just a human thing. We naturally do this. We naturally want to resist, to find a reason not to share with people. But just expect they're going to come up and kind of listen to them and realize, like, heck, I'm the one holding myself back, right? I'm the one telling myself. It's like you're deciding for them, right? Before you even talk to them. But what I love about limiting beliefs is that they're really just a thought that we have made up in our own head. They're not reality, right? Reality is that we don't really know what people are thinking or where they're at in their life. So it's really good news because you can replace your limiting beliefs with things that are actually true. Yeah. Things like people do like me. I have something that people need. I connect easily and quickly with people. I develop friendships fast. I have something that everybody wants, and someone right now is praying for this right now. So those are different things where you can replace that. So like if you're thinking like, oh, we aren't close enough right now. I mean, change that thought out with like this person could be praying for this right now. This could be an answer to their prayer. So make sure that you're just switching out those limiting beliefs with stuff that is true, and that's where you want to kind of be before you start messaging people in that state of mind that you have a powerful product that can help them change their lives, and you also have a powerful opportunity that can help change their future forever. So keep that in mind when you go to start sharing with people.
When we first started, I remember our diamond upline Bridget Ryan saying it's all about mindset, right? And as we've done this business more and more longer now, so it's over 3 years. I'm realizing that more and more that it really is. And so by addressing these red light stories or addressing these limiting beliefs and changing our mind, right, changing our perspective on it, it's going to really make a big difference. So when we go into these conversations, our mindset's in the right place. Mm-hmm. It really makes a big difference, right? You have that now. You have this belief in what you're saying, and it's coming from the heart, and you don't have that like, well, I don't want them to think I'm salesy, right? And you address that, or you don't want them to think that you're just trying to make money off of them. It's not about that, right? So you're changing that mindset, and so we're learning that more and more that really is what it's all about for us.
Yes.
So did you want to go? So are we done with that part?
Yeah, we're done with that part. We're going to go into the 6 steps to connect, and not just 6 steps to connect, but to intentionally connect.
Yeah. So it's important that we keep saying that intentionality, right? Being intentional because we want to make sure that we are not. So some of you that are watching this recording or watching this call, you may be really good at talking to people. You may be like, yeah, I'm outgoing. Like like I just talk to people all the time. Like it's super easy for you, right? But we don't want to think about, well, we'll get to this. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
yeah. So so 6 steps to connect. There's no time period, no rush. Everyone's going to be different, just like any relationship. So grab, if you don't have a paper, grab a paper. We
And
want to
and
take
a pen,
notes.
yeah.
We want it, well, just paper. Just think about it. No, grab paper, pen and pencil, Sharpie, calligraphy pen, whatever you like. Okay. Um, and write down these 6 steps. And then we're gonna go back, and Jermaine and I will go back over these. Okay. So step one is list people, right? So we're gonna
Just one to
list
step.
people. Okay. Step two, we're gonna find commonalities, right? Things that we have in common with people. Step three, start the conversation. Okay. Step four, we're gonna listen, right? Which is we'll get into that, but that's probably one of the most important ones. Step five, take cues. Step six, go for the ask. Okay, so don't be afraid. Go for the ask. That's how we're going to get to helping people, right? We have to ask. So, do you want to get started on those, Jermaine?
Sure. So step one we said was list people. So first, I want you to list only 5 people because we want it to be at a manageable amount. We don't want to list 50 people. I feel like when we list a lot of people at once, we kind of water down our relationships and our connecting. It's like you're trying to hurry to just say hi to people, right? Or connect and then hopefully share. But what you want
Before you get into that,
oh, yeah.
so because we are, so we want to make sure that we're not confusing you. So we're listing 5 people that we're going to intentionally connect with, right? So we will tell you guys to make a list of 20 people, right? Top 20 or hot 20 list, right? Mm-hmm. So part of that is we're going to take 5 of those people, right? So if you have that list, we can take 5 of those people and we can now go through these steps to build and develop good, close relationships with 20 people at once. It's not going to happen. Maintaining relationships with 20 people, that's manageable. But to connect, right? Mm-hmm. And to build relationships with 20 people, it's too much. So starting with 5.
Yeah. So step one, you're really just going to list 5 people that you want to connect with. So when I think of people I want to connect with, it's people who I see regularly, maybe at the gym, when I get my hair done, when I go to work. Like, who are people that you see regularly? And this can also be online, so on social media. So who are people that comment on your posts regularly, or you're seeing their posts regularly, or you see their stories regularly? So list 5 people that you want to connect with. Number 2 is find some commonalities. So you have your 5 people. For each of those 5 people, I want you to list 3 commonalities. Like, what are they interested in? Are they a gym goer like you? Do they have kids in dance class? Do they have kids in baseball? Do they love going on vacations? Do you have some of the same hobbies? So find 3 things you have in common for each of those people.
So for some, we were talking about this earlier, for some people, it might be a little bit more of a stretch, right? But there are at least 3 things in common. You both stay home from work. You both go to work. You're both busy moms. You're both busy dads, right? We really can break it down and find those three things that's going to help us connect better.
Yeah. You want to do number 3?
Sure. So number 3 is start the conversation, right? If we don't have the conversation, it can't go anywhere, right? So we want to start a conversation on social media or in person, right? So both are going to be similar, but at the same time, a little bit different, right? So like Jermaine was saying, in person, like thinking about people you're going to go and see at the gym, right? So it's like, hey, one of my 5 people is this guy I see at the gym every day, right? And so I want to have that conversation with them, right? I want to start up. And so as far as the conversation with someone in person, it's really simple. It's just, hey, Johnny, how you doing? How was your weekend? Just something that, you just spark like an icebreaker, right? Like just starting a conversation, right? In person, it's way easier. In person's easier because you're not ever going to feel like salesy so much if you're just starting a conversation, right? You're like, oh, but on social media, it's like, well, I don't want to reach out to them. I haven't talked to them in a while. Mm-hmm. Whereas in person, you're like, I see this guy every day, or I see my hairstylist every month, or I see, right? So those conversations can come across and start a little bit easier. On social media, something like, hey, friend, you just came across my feed. I thought I'd stop by to say hi. How have you and the family been? Right. And so obviously, depending on the person, if they're a single guy, you wouldn't say that, right? Hey, how's work been? has been crazy, right? So you want to personalize this, but that's like a basic idea is you want to make sure that you're personalizing all these messages, right? Because we're talking about intentionality, intentionally sharing, right? So before we can do that, we have to be intentional with how we set up the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And same with in person too. It's like you've listed all your commonalities, the three things that you guys have in common. So when you bump into them, those would be the things that you bring up. Those would be the things you ask about. You know, we both have kids that we homeschool. Oh, how are your kids doing? How's homeschool going? It seems basic, but um, really step three is just starting that conversation, right? It doesn't have to be, it's not a magic post, it's not a magic sentence, it's nothing. It's just simply starting the conversation.
So there's something that Genevieve from Plexus says, don't be weird, right? So don't be weird. Don't be weird when you start a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to make it like some big deal. It's really just starting a conversation. So number 4 is listen. So number four, we're going to be listening and asking questions, leaning into what they're saying and taking interest. So when you ask someone, hey, how have you and the kids been doing? How's homeschool, right? They're going to be saying things like, oh, homeschool's been really hard. Johnny's not listening to me, or my husband's been gone a lot, or work's been really busy. So when people say things, take those things they're saying and ask more questions. Why has work been so busy? Or what do you do for work? Or what have the kids been learning in homeschool? Or why has the house been so crazy, right? So just take interest and lean in and ask more questions, because when you talk to someone, the person who is asking the question is the person who's leading the conversation. So you want to lead the conversation by asking questions, taking interest in them, taking interest in the things that are important to them. And the things that are important to them are the things that they're sharing with you. So make sure you're listening to what they're saying so you can expand on and ask more questions and lean into what they're saying.
Yeah. We want to make sure that this doesn't turn into a diarrhea all over people, right? We don't want to just talk about ourselves, right? There will be time, and we'll talk about this next. There's going to be times when it's your turn to share, but mostly we want to lead the conversation with questions, good questions. We want to ask questions, and then we want to listen, because we're going to be looking for step 5, take cues. We're going to be listening for pain points. Okay. So like Jermaine was saying, you're asking your friend, hey, how's homeschool going? Did you guys start? What charter school are you with? Oh yeah. And they're talking about, I don't know, whatever you were saying.
Homeschool could be anything. It could be that, like, oh my gosh, I'm home all by myself. My husband doesn't even get home from work until 7 o'clock at night, and I'm pretty much still taking care of the kids because he's exhausted, right? So that's a pain point. Her husband's gone all the time. He's exhausted. I'm just so tired because my husband's gone all the time. That's a pain point. I'm exhausted all the time. Another pain point,
or financially, right? They could say, oh, it's been really tough with the kids. Travel sports. If you do travel sports, like, it's super expensive. So, and if you live in California, you're probably going to be running into this kind of stuff. So it's like, oh man, how are sports going for little Johnny? Oh, it's been great, but it's really, like, funds are really tight right now, or my husband got laid off, or he got a demotion, whatever it is, right? We're listening for those cues, listening for those pain points, whether it's the business or it's health, right? But we're just looking for ways and looking for things that we can step in and go for the ask, which is step 6, right?
Yeah, go for the ask. So eventually you're going to have to ask someone about Plexus. So we are in sales, although we pride ourselves in not being salesy. We are in sales, and it's something that we're very proud of, because what we are selling is something that's going to help them. We're not selling them some empty promises. We're not selling them something that is just a get rich quick if you just buy it from me real quick. We're selling something that can really help them. So we do have to go for the ask. And that's where we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about how to go for the ask, because I know that that's probably one of the more intimidating things too. It's like, oh my gosh, I know they're bloated. I know their husband works all the time.
Yeah.
I know they can't sleep. They told me they have hypothyroidism. Like, now what?
Well, what are
Right?
we running into, right? When we go for the ask, what are we doing? We're running into red light stories, limiting beliefs, like Jermaine was talking about. And so it's important to revisit that as you're getting to this go for the ask, right? And so before we get into that, we're gonna share some sample scenarios. But I want to talk about like when you're having these conversations, it's not all in one day,
Yeah.
right? It's not like you started this conversation and you're talking for hours, or right? Like it's like you started the conversation at the gym and you're kind of just talking to them and you're listening, and then maybe next week, right? You continue that conversation. Or on social media, it's like I don't know about anybody else, but when I have a conversation with someone, like one of us will have to stop, right? And you typically don't, it's not like you're on a phone conversation, right? On a phone call where you're like, okay, hey, I gotta run, I'll talk to you later, right? It typically just like fades off and then you move on, right? And then you can revisit those conversations, right? And so the same thing's happening as we're doing this, right? Is we're spending time, we're not rushing it, just like any relationship, we're not rushing the process, we're taking our time. So I just wanted to cover that. But Jermaine has some sample scenarios we're going to go over with. This one's introducing Plexus.
The business. Do you want to do this one?
Yeah, I can do that one. So we're just going to read this, you guys. We have several different sample scenarios that we can talk to you and share with you. If you want more, comment in the comment below, and we'll get those to you. But this is Sally, your IG friend, right? Your newer friend Sally is someone you met on IG. She has 3 kids. They all play sports, and her daughter is into dance. You've struck up some conversations about dance and how your daughters have that in common, and what it's like to be a dance mom. You find out you live a few hours away, and her husband is always gone at work. He's in sales and travels 7 months out of the year. She's expecting her fourth and stressed about doing it all on her own, but they need the income even though he hates traveling that much. Okay, so that's like the scenario. Your invitation could be, right? This is an example of what you could say to her. You wow, it sounds really challenging to have your husband gone that much, right? And she says, yeah, it sucks, right? Then you can come back with, does he miss out on a lot of family things? Does he ever get to come to dance things or the boys' games? Talk back and forth with the goal, right? We're talking back and forth with the goal, like right. So, like Jermaine said, we're leading the conversation because we're asking questions, okay? And then you say, if he didn't have to work, would you still want him to do the job and be away that much, or would you ever want to find a different way for income? And she says, no way. It ruins so much. I hate it. And then you would come back with, listen, I was in the same shoes 5 years ago. My husband was gone 6 to 7 days a week and he missed everything. I hated it. I was like a single mom, excuse me, and he just slept at our house. We both hated it. We had no time together. And then she says, yeah, that's me. Right? So we're relating, right? And then you come back with, yeah, so when I started this gut health stuff, it literally made it so he could be home on Saturdays. That's all I ever thought I was going to do with it. And then I kept making 1,000, then 2,600, then 4,000, then 7,000. I thought maybe we could just pay off our debt. Never even crossed my mind that he could stop working Saturdays, but he did. And so whether or not your husband would be open to stepping away or not, you would be prepared and you would have the option to decide if you wanted to keep going down the same path. Have you ever thought about doing what I do? Would would you ever want to do that so that if the opportunity presented itself, he could cut back and step away from the job entirely, right? So this is sharing about the business, right? Obviously, this isn't my scenario, but the idea is we're following that, right? We're starting the conversation, right? We're kind of going through all those steps, and at the end, right? Once we found that those pain points, all that stuff, at the end, we're going for the ask, right? And it's not like we have to relate to people, right? It's not just saying, hey, do you want to try my pink drink? Or hey, do you want to do the business with me? Right? It's really relating like to their situation, right? And that's where that intentionality comes into play, right? This is a much more personal, well thought like response to somebody versus like there, you can tell there's some intentional like intentionality to what they're saying and that ask.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like at some point, it's like, yes, they have a lot of things in common, but they've found the pain points, right? She knows her husband's working a lot and that she's home with the kids all day and she's exhausted. So she kind of just switched it to sharing in almost a feel felt found way, right?
Mm-hmm.
She says, listen, I was in your same shoes
That's
5 years ago.
Yeah.
My husband was gone too. This is what I felt, right? I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. And then what she found is that last paragraph, how she started making all this money and she figured out like maybe I could, instead of just keep my husband home on Saturdays, maybe I could pay off all our debt, right? And the business just kept going. So this is a lot. I'm not going to actually share this one because it's a lot the same. It's also a business testimony. But if you guys want these, we can send them over to you so you can kind of get the samples.
Yeah, like I said, comment in the comment below, and then we can get you stuff or reach out.
So basically, when we're doing this number 6, right? We're going or number 5 and 6. So we're taking cues, right? In this example, she was taking cues. Her husband's gone all the time. So just think like you're going to, in a very genuinely helpful way, help your friend by sharing your story or sharing someone else's story. And that's the ask part, right? The ask part wasn't her. She didn't say like, do you want to do Plexus with me? Because we could make some money and keep your husband home. It was sharing a story. So I want you to remember that she's basically sharing a testimony of someone, of herself, actually, in this example, of how she was able to stay home more with her kid or get her husband to stay home more. So number 5 and 6, take the cues and then think of how you can share an example to address those pain points that they've shared with you.
And so this is definitely something that you can have your upline help you with. If we're your upline, we can help you with this, right? Because this is while it's like it's meant to be a very natural thing, right? But sometimes we don't think our story is important, or we aren't sure what to share about it, or we lose sight of the fact that like to a lot of people, $300 a month is like a blessing, is a complete blessing, right? Or $500 a month, or getting their husband home on the weekend, so he's not traveling, right? So we may not realize that because we lose sight of it, or we don't think it's enough, or we don't think our Plexus journey or our results are enough because we don't have this amazing testimony, right? We didn't lose 90 pounds, or we didn't lose 75 pounds, but you're sleeping better and you have more energy. That, for most people, that would be amazing, right? If you're a mom at home and you're exhausted with your kids, that little testimony, it could be life changing. Okay. Yeah. So, but talk with your upline, talk with us if we are your upline, and if you need some help with kind of how this all would work. Okay.
Yeah. And I have a quote to share with you. It's from our coach, Brooke Hemingway. She says, things do not change. We change. The opportunity has always been amazing. The products have always been right on, but you needed to change to come to the place of confidence and to speak the truth to people. So change the way you look at your friends and family and social media acquaintances. See their lives for what they are. Discover the desires of their heart and care about them deeply. Then you will have unlocked the door to your potential and their potential. But that just goes to say, like, grab that confidence and intentionally think of how you can help your friends, and then start sharing that confidence with them through these conversations.
You can practice these steps, going through them, writing it out, thinking about it, right? That's where that intentionality, right? The more you practice it, the more intentional you are with it, the better you're going to get at it, mm-hmm. Right? If we keep saying intentionality, we keep talking about that, really, because it's supposed to be something that's like it's not a copy paste, right? We're giving you steps, but it's not a copy paste message, right? Because it's really important that when we're reaching out to people, when we're trying to connect with them, that it's personal, right? That it is like just like that last part, right? It wasn't just like, hey, join me for Plexus, let's do the business,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was really like thinking about their situation, right? And a lot of times, I tend to not get really personal and spend a lot of time thinking about that. And Jermaine, I'm like, hey, babe, I need some help with this because like how would you say this, and she does a lot better. She thinks about that a lot more. So but the way we get better at that is by reading or by not reading, by practicing.
Yeah.
Okay, practicing, asking, right, asking questions to your upline, getting help with it. That's how we're going to get better at it. We don't need to be amazing or perfect at it or say the perfect things, but we want our heart to come across, our being genuine to come across to people when we're talking to them.
Yeah. And I know I talk a lot in my posts when I put on my feed and in my stories how I love my job because I get to love and serve people. And the way we serve people is by selling them a product that works. The way we serve people is by telling them that the opportunity can change their lives and you believe in them, right? So that is the serving and loving people. I have two more quotes I want to leave you with. Brian Tracy says, approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. So that takes it away from the sales part, right? You're thinking of how can I help them solve this health issue or this time and money issue. And the other one is from Thomas Fries. He says the question you ask are more important than the things you could ever say. So when you're leading a conversation, just remember that, like even in this sample scenario, when they are talking to their friend, they're asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
He says, like every single, does he miss out on a lot of family things? The next one says, if he didn't have to work, would you still want him to do that? The next one, the next one is she goes into how she goes into her feel, felt, found. But the point is that she leads the conversation because she's asking questions. So remember that asking those questions are way more important than the information you have about the product, the information you have about the business. You're basically going to lead the conversation with questions and share a testimony, share your own story or share a friend's story about the product or about the business.
Yeah, that's great. The one last thing is, as we're going back to that, making a list of 5 people, right? What we want to happen with these relationships is we find the pain points and we help them, and we don't just sell them a 30-day gut health pack or a reset and then moving on to the next. We're really developing this long-term relationship with people, right? We're developing this friendship where we're going to help them reach their goals financially, right? Health wise, both. Okay. And so we want to think about it like that, is this is a long-term relationship and friendship that we're building. And so we don't need to rush it. Just like with a marriage, we were talking about this earlier, like some people meet and a couple months later, they know they want to get married. They get married and they have an amazing, beautiful marriage. Some people meet, they're off and on for years, they date, then they're together for a while, and then maybe it's 10 years and they get married and they have an amazing, beautiful marriage, right? The point of that is that there's no like set time frame, but remember, like this is long-term stuff that we're trying to do. We're really, if we have a heart to help people, we're thinking about long-term relationships, long-term friendships.
Yes.
I just wanted to leave us with that.
Yeah. So okay. That's it for how to intentionally connect with friends.
How to intentionally share Plexus
with friends and connect with them. And let us know or ask your upline if you have any more questions on how to put those 6 steps into practice with your friends.
All right. We'll see you soon.